Hi guys, it's Sherry. I hope that you are having a fantastic day. Thank you so much by helping to support my channel by supporting my website. And here is the awesome bonus project that you are receiving. It is a beautiful mini chest of drawers, and I think that you're absolutely going to love it. It's such a simple process, and by the time you made this one, you're going to be ready to make so many more. So before we get started, I just want to say that please make sure that you watch this video in its entirety so that you can see the whole process from beginning to end. And then when you're ready to make your awesome chest of drawers, make sure that you practice on some scrap material first. No matter how seasoned and experienced we are as crafters, when we're making something that we've never made before, sometimes that can result in miscuts or mismeasurements, and all types of little things can happen. So when you practice on scrap, that gives you a chance to make it before you actually make it. So it is time for us to get crafty. All right, guys, so here is what we're going to need to make this awesome drawer box. We are going to need quite a few pieces of chipboard. So we're going to need 12 pieces, and I'm using a medium weight that measure 2 by 4. You'll need 12 of those. And then you're going to need 3 pieces that measure 4 by 4. So we are going to need 3 pieces that measure 4 1/8 by 4 1/8. 1 piece that measures 4 1/2 by 4 3/8. 2 pieces that measure 6 1/4 by 4 1/8. And 1 piece that measures 4 3/8 by 6 1/2. And for the paper that I'm using on today's project, I have chosen this absolutely gorgeous Prima paper. It's called Floral Toile, and it's from the Pretty Mosaic collection. And here is the SKU in case you want to look for this paper. To make our project, we are going to need 7 to 8 pieces of 12 by 12 paper. Or if you have sheet paper, that is actually perfect for the outer shell of this. If you have sheet paper, by all means use that. But for the purposes of this project, we are going to focus on using 12 by 12 paper. So this project will have 3 box drawers. I have already made 2 because the process is going to be the same. And so pre-making the 2 boxes will save us a little time that we can spend on other parts of this project. So taking one of our 12 by 12 inch sheets, we're going to score at 2 and at 4 on all 4 sides. So that's 2 and 4 on all 4 sides. So that's 2 and 4. So then we're going to fold and burnish all of our scores. And this paper is absolutely gorgeous. I can't remember the publication year, but I don't think it was that long ago. So there still might be some of it out there on the market. All right, guys, so once we have our scores folded and burnished, we're going to have 3 corner pieces on all 4 sides that we need to get rid of. So we are going to first free up these insides so that we can get the larger panels released. So go up to the second score mark and drag straight down the middle of the score mark. And then come over to the other side, go up to the second score mark, and drag straight down. And now we have freed up this piece. So we'll angle on this tab, and we'll angle in here, and we'll angle slightly on that piece, and then we'll reduce this piece. So we'll do the same thing on this side. So we're going to come over to this panel, go to the second score mark, angle in, and then we can go to the second score mark on the opposite side, angle in, and then we can angle in on that panel, and then we can reduce. And then we'll come to the opposite side and do the same thing. So we'll go up to the second score mark, drag straight down the middle, come over to the other second score mark, drag straight down the middle, and we have freed up this tab here. And now we'll angle in on this piece, angle in again, we'll angle and reduce. Let's do that over here. So go to that second score mark, angle in, angle in here, angle here, and reduce. And then we're going to do just a slight angle on the two large panels that we released. So we're just going to slightly angle in, and that just makes folding over this flap a little easier. So let's do that on both sides. We're just going to angle in a little bit. And guys, when we're angling in on these flaps, we're only angling beneath the score mark. So you start here on this piece and you angle in. You don't go all the way up to the top on that one. You simply start right at the score mark and drag an angle. So now I'm going to bring in my glue so that we can put our box together. You can put your box together using a good double-sided tape. I would not put my boxes together using a snail tape runner. Make sure that you have a good adhesive that you'll be using on this project. So once we have our corners matched, I'm going to use my little bone folder, go on the inside, and then I'll do the same thing on this side. So I'm just matching it, making sure everything is nice and tight. Then I can go on the inside, get that stuck. I'm going to fold that back, and I'll place glue on this side. And then we'll bring these pieces up, and we'll get the shape of our body, and we'll get our box put together. So now that we have the box glued together, we're going to go ahead and fold back these flaps, and we're going to take this and set it to the side, because now we want to bring in, I have some scrap, so I'm going to bring that in. So now we want to bring in our 2x4 inch pieces as well as our 4x4 inch pieces. And we want to go ahead and get those covered so that they'll look very nice. Okay, so now that I have my base covered, I am simply going to place it down on the inside like this to make sure it's going to fit. And then I'll place it like this to make sure it's going to fit. If it's not, then you need to trim away just a little bit. I think I have a good fit. So I am just going to take some double stick tape and place this down. And this is the process for making the 3 boxes that we'll be using on this project. So now I'm going to lift away my tape. I'm going to take this piece and slide it in and then press it down. So now we can bring in our 2x4 inch pieces, and you need to make sure that you do a test fit to make sure they're going to fit, and then to also make sure that they aren't sticking up like this. If they are, then you need to start removing some of the chipboard to reduce the size of it. So now I'll take this piece, I'm going to place it back in, and now you can see that it's not sticking up over the top. So I'll just take this piece And I'm going to use it as my guide on the other pieces so that they aren't sticking out over the top either. And then once we have these trimmed this way, we'll test fit our pieces and put them in. So now I'm going to take these pieces, place them in, and I see that I have a nice fit. So I'll go ahead and place down 2 of them, and then I'll probably have to trim 2 of them. So I'll put that in and just get it stuck. Take this piece and go to the opposite side, place it in, and get it stuck. Now I can take my other 2 pieces, and they are going to be a little bit too snug going in this way. So this time I'm just going to use my scissors. You can bring in your ruler if you want, and I'm just going to start snipping away a little bit at a time until I have the fit that I want. And guys, make sure that you start with the measurements that I gave you and trim down instead of starting too short, because you definitely want to start out with pieces that are too large. Better to have them too large than to be cut too short. So now I'm just going to take this piece, place it in, lift away my tape. We'll get this stuck. And now we can take our glue, place our glue all over these 4 panels, and fold them inside of our box. You can do this with tape as well. I just prefer using glue. And we're going to get this stuck. So we're just going to fold that piece in, and I'll use my bone folder to get that pushed in and stuck. Come over to the opposite side, get that pushed in. Then I'll use my bone folder to make sure everything is nice and stuck. And we'll keep going around this box until we have the inside completely finished. And then I'll just go around everything to make sure it's nice and stuck. And then I'll go around the top just to make sure that my box has a nice squareness to it. And so now I have the 3 boxes that we are going to need for this cute little project. So now what we'll be doing is we're going to join 2 pieces of our 12 by 12 inch paper. So I am just using a 1/2 inch tape strip. I'm placing that down on one end. And then I'll trim away that excess piece of tape. And so now I'll use my finger blade to lift up my tape. So I'm just going to take this, place it down on that tape, get that nice and stuck. I'm going to use my big old spatula to really get it stuck. So we now have our work canvas all ready to go. And we need to bring in our 2 pieces that measure 6 1/4 by 4 1/8. And we need to bring in 1 piece of the 4 1/8 by 4 1/8. So what we're going to do is I am going to remove the tape from the back of my 4 1/8 by 4 1/8 inch piece, and then I'll place it down so that it hits about right here. And I did place it over that seam, so the seam will be on the top of our box, but it really will not be a distraction at all. So I'm going to peel up my tape from this piece. We're going to put it down, giving ourselves about 1/8 of an inch in spacing. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to take this piece, put it down, giving myself about 1/8 of an inch in spacing. Then I'm going to use my finger blade to trim away some at the top and some at the bottom. And now I'm going to take this and I'm just going to fold it to get an idea of how much I actually need to cut off. So I am going to cut off. So what I did was I folded this over and then I folded it back so that I had a little bit of that chipboard border showing. Then all I'm going to do is take my ruler and trim away the excess, because we are going to be doing the fold over method on this so that we don't have to worry about placing down an inside liner piece. When we fold over, we will get our liner piece. Okay, so now we have this, and what I'm going to do is you can take your stylus or your bone folder and just press down to get a nice score in your paper, especially if you're using a paper as thick as Prima papers tend to be. So just give it a good score. So what I'm doing is making sure that where I have the paper doubled, where I joined it, I'm just making sure that I press down and give that a little extra attention. So once we have our piece like this, then we can bring in our finger blade, X-Acto knife, whatever it is you use to cut, and I'm just going to go in and angle. Then when I get to this side, I'll angle like this because that's a very long piece. And then I'll come to the bottom here and I'm going to angle. So I'll come to the bottom, do that same angle. And so now I can take my piece, stand it up, place some glue on this end, and then we'll fold it over. I'll bring in my big old spatula, and we'll get it stuck. And I'll do the same thing on this end. So I'll fold that piece over, and we'll get it nice and stuck. And so now I'm going to use my tape. I am going to take my tape, and I'm going to place 3 strips from top to bottom. Now I'll peel away that tape. And we'll take this piece, and I'm just going to very gently kind of tap it down because we need to fold over, but I want to make sure that I try to minimize any cracking that might try to occur. So here is where the cracking is most likely going to happen, where I've joined those two pieces. So far, so good. I'm going to get this stuck. Go ahead and complete that fold over. Use my big old spatula to come in and get it nice and tight. I was very fortunate on that. I didn't have any cracking. So I'm going to take my glue, and on this piece, I'm just going to use glue since it's such a small piece. And you can see how doing the fold over method really saves you some time on having to lay down your inside liner pieces. So we're going to stand this up. I'm going to do the same thing I did on the other side. I'm going to start with the joint where we join those two pieces, and I'm very gently going to start bending at that point and then bending outward. So I'm holding that part there. And again, we didn't have any cracking, which is great. I used this paper on another project recently, and I had some really serious cracking. But this time, when I expected to have cracking, we didn't. So that's a bonus. So now that we have this piece all done, we can come in and really work and define that spine area on both ends. And I'm just going to bring in the wide part of this and just go in to make sure that I have it nice and spread out. And so now this is what we have. This is the outer part to the little chest of drawers that we're making. So now that we have this piece done, let's set it to the side, and we are going to need to cover some of our other chipboard pieces. So we're going to go ahead and cover. We have two pieces that measure 4 1/8 by 4 1/8, and one piece that measures 4 1/2 by 4 3/8. We're going to go ahead and cover those. So I am going to take my two pieces that measure 4 1/8 by 4 1/8, and I'm going to place one piece right there at the bottom. So I aligned the end of that chipboard with the bottom of that paper. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to do a wraparound on these as well. So now I'm going to take my finger blade. When I get to the end, I'm going to flare out. I'll do the same thing over here. I'll flare out. Then I'll do it on this side. I'll cut straight down. And then I'll come back and I'll flare out. And let's do that on this one. And so now I'll take my tape, and I'm just going to place some tape down. And let me just go ahead and place the tape on both while I have the tape roll out. Then I'll lift up my tape. And I'll stand this up. And then I'm just going to fold it over to do that wraparound use my finger blade to remove all of the excess paper. And we'll do the same thing on this one. So I'm going to flip this over, bring in my finger blade, trim away this excess, and so now I'll use my big old spatula just to go over these to make sure that everything is nice and even. Now these might be larger than we need. We might actually have to do some trimming, but of course we're going to start out larger than we need and make adjustments as we go along. So this is our base, and the base is 4.5 by 4 3/8. I'm going to go ahead, remove this tape, bring in a piece, and this time I'm going to place it in just like this because I want a very wide border around this. So now I'll stand this up and just get it folded over to get my creases so I will know where to miter. So what I'm going to do is I will be doing a miter like this on all 4 sides. And then I'm just going to take some tape, put tape right here, and I'll lift up my tape. And now I'll take some glue as well, and I'm going to take my glue and just place glue around the edges. Then I can take this, stand it up, and just fold these over. And then I'll use my big old spatula to get everything nice and stuck. So now we can focus on putting this together. And the way that we do it, when we place it down, we want to make sure that we have the 4.5-inch side facing you, and then you pick up this piece and we're going to put it down on that piece. But the way that we're going to make sure that we actually have our placement proper, we're going to take one of our boxes and just use it as a rough guide. So when we put that box inside, we're just sitting it there to get placement of where this would go. So it's going to go in just like that. So what you can do, and probably the easiest thing to do, is to keep that box in there. Take your glue and go ahead and place your glue along the bottom. And I'm trying to make sure that I get a pretty decent amount of glue on here because I don't want this coming up. So then I can bring this piece back in, and I'm going to make sure that I'm on the 4.5-inch side. And this is acting as my spacer guide. So now I can take this and I'll set it down. So before I remove that box, guys, I am going to make sure that I have my placement as I want it. So I am twisting this and turning it. So then when I think that I have my placement the way that I want it, I am going to take the box and slide it all the way to the bottom because I want to make sure that everything is nice and squared. And so when you think that you have it nice and squared, take all 3 of your boxes and place them on the inside. Now they're not going to sit perfectly because we don't have the spacers in yet, but you want to put them in so that you can see if you need to make any adjustments on the side. So mine are in and it's actually pretty straight, but if it wasn't, you just take your hand and start squeezing in the sides until you have it nice and straight and you don't have a lot of side space. And then once you're satisfied with that, you can remove your boxes and let this dry. And so while this is drying, we are going to go ahead and cover the piece that goes on the back, and it's 4 3/8 by 6 1/2. When I place it down, I am just going to glue it to the back, and that's really going to help to stabilize this little chest of drawers. But I'm okay with just a little bit of mine sticking up in the back. If you're not, and I'll show you what I mean, you can see that little bit that's sticking up in the back. If you're not okay with that, then you can trim away just a little bit. So I have added some tape to the back, and I'm going to place it down just like that. Then I'm going to trim around because we will need to do a liner piece on the back of this. I'm going to stand it up, fold it over, and then I will just miter here, here, and then I'll take my glue and I'm going to just fold over my edges, and then I'll cut out a little liner piece. So then I have a liner piece that measures 6 1/4 by 4 1/8. And I am just going to place down some tape. And then I'll remove the backing from my tape. And then I'm just going to place some glue along the edges of my liner piece to make sure that everything stays nice and stuck. I'll take this liner and I'm just going to place it down. Use my big old spatula to get it nice and stuck. And so now I'll take my base. I am going to take my glue, and this time I'm going to place the glue along this part of the body, trying not to get glue on the inside because I do need to put my drawers in. Get that glue out of there. And then I'll take the bottom of this, and we need to add some glue to the bottom. So now we can take this piece, I'm going to put it right there, push it in to get it stuck, stand this up just to make sure it's nice and straight. Look at it on both sides. I'll slide it over if I need to. And then all we need to do is just press down, press in. Let's make sure that we go on the inside with a paper towel or a wet wipe and get up any excess glue that's on the inside, because we definitely don't want any glue on the inside. And then we just need to let this dry. All right, guys, so here is our little chest. Isn't it just pretty? That's the only way I can describe it, as pretty. So now we're going to go ahead and put the drawers in. And the way that I'm going to do mine, I'm just going to find the side that I really like. And then in order to put the spacers in, these are our pieces that measure 4 1/8 by 4 1/8 that we covered. So we put the drawer in, then we're going to put that spacer in. So leave the drawer in while you're placing that spacer. So we're going to take the spacer, add some glue to the 3 raw sides of it, and we're going to place it down. So let's go ahead and add our glue. On the 3 raw edges of the chipboard. And make sure you do a test fit, so if you need to reduce it any, reduce it before you actually add the glue. So then we're going to take this piece and we're going to slide it in. Now I'm going to have to stand this up and look at it because I need to slide it in so that I don't have it sitting up too high from the drawer. So then once I have that in, I am going to slide that drawer out because the glue might actually seep and I don't want it to mess with the drawer at all. So all I'm doing is pressing in so that the glue can hit the side wall, and then I'll press back, trying to make sure that I keep everything nice and level. And then I'm going to just check on the inside to make sure I don't have any glue seeping. And if I don't, I'll take my drawer and put it back in just to make sure that I have proper placement on that shelf. And you can see how you've got just a little bit of space. That's exactly what you need, because if it's too tight, you're not going to be able to get that drawer out. So now I can take drawer number 2, place it in. I can take my second spacer and just do a test fit of that second spacer. And I think that that looks so good. So I am going to leave that second drawer in, and I'll go ahead and add my glue to the 3 raw edges of this chipboard. And you want to make sure that you let that dry so that you don't run into any problems with it coming undone. So now I can take this piece with that second drawer in and I'll place it in. But again, I need to be looking at this so that I am not placing it in to where the glue is hitting that drawer. So I'm going to take it, put it in, and I'll do the same thing that I did on the first one. I am just going to squeeze in my sides, and then I'm going to slide that drawer out. because I haven't put the drawer pulls on the drawer yet. So I want to make sure that everything is nice and right. And you can actually do this with hot glue. I am doing it with my Reptile Glue because you guys know I love the stick that I get from my Reptile Glue. So I am pressing down and pressing in on the sides. We'll let this dry and I'll be right back. All right, guys, here is our finished chest of drawers, and isn't it lovely? So I am going to take 3 of my little handles and we're going to finish this off. So I'm going to place one here, one here, and one here. And I'm going to do this using my Reptile Glue. So I'm going to stand for this part because it's hard for me to see it when I'm sitting down. So I'm just placing my glue. Try to get these evenly spaced. And I'll take the last one, place my glue, get this put down into place. Look at it. I'm going to pick it up and look at it straight on so that I can tell if I've got my handles down straight. And guys, I can't tell you how much I absolutely am loving this. So I'm going to place some feet on it. Turn it upside down. Use my Reptile Glue. Place my feet. And I'll place my feet here. Everything that I'm doing is totally optional. I just like to really take projects like this to the next level. So now all we need to do is let this dry, and then we will look at the finished project. So guys, didn't you just love it? Wasn't that fun and super simple? You end up with this gorgeous chest of drawers and you made it. Sometimes we look at projects like this and we're intimidated because we think it has to be hard. And as you just saw, it really wasn't. It's all about building the project in stages and components, and then taking those components and putting them together, and you end up with this. So I hope that you are super eager and super excited to start making your chest of drawers. Guys, you can do it. So as always, please be safe, be kind, happy crafting, and we'll chat later. Bye.